wardrobe is helping Dr. Dirk. I think we'll start with some introductions. So, Lakshmi, please, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Absolute pleasure to be here today. I'm Lakshmi Krishnamurthy. I head the data governance at AW Rostamani. About 18 years of experience here in UAE across diverse sectors, and looking forward to great conversations here today.
Hi, this is Esra Yazıcı. I'm the Data and Analytics Director of Sisecam. I joined Sisecam 5 years ago. Before that, I have 20 years of experience in telecommunications. And I'll talk about our journey in Sisecam and glass manufacturing.
Santosh.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Santosh Kurakala. I'm the Vice President Data Analytics representing Beyond One. So we primarily look into telecommunications and fintech businesses. So looking forward for the meeting.
So I'm Dr. Reem Libar. I'm part of the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Maktoum in Dubai. I was also very recently an advisor in AI for the government in Abu Dhabi, building the ecosystem that is supporting AI today. And I recently joined an organization also in Abu Dhabi as a group CDO to be announced this afternoon.
Oh, you leave us guessing.
Yeah, and I have the privilege actually to be the customer number 1, number 2, still debatable, of Dataiku in the region.
Excellent, thanks for joining us today. Dr. Dirk.
Right, yeah, that works. Good morning. My name is Dirk Jungnickel, and I'm heading the enterprise data and analytics function for Emirates Group, which is Emirates Airlines, Danata, and all its subsidiaries. I've been with Emirates Group now for almost 6.5 years. Before that, quite a long time in telecommunications, management consulting, all kinds of things. And before that, I was studying string theories and black holes and things like that, in case there are questions.
Excellent. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask Dr. Dirk. Before we get into the flow of the conversation, you've all been very forthcoming in supporting Dataiku over the years, and I didn't have to try very hard in convincing these ladies and gentlemen to be here today. However, I recall a story. It's always good to start with a story. I invited Dr. Dirk, and the conversation was around his previous experience of presenting at Dataiku events. And I said, Dr. Dirk, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have some of your humor injected into the session. And the response, Dr. Dirk?
Well, yeah, I'm always flabbergasted by these kind of comments because, I mean, I'm German. I forgot to mention this. I mean, it sounds like an oxymoron to invite a German because of a sense of humor.
So the response was, Rehan, I'm privileged, honored. However, you're finding humor in the wrong place. So let's see if we can bring some of that out from others as well. And there is another story about getting data in the right place at the right time. So Esra, do you want to tell us about your luxury stay at Dubai Airport because of some data issue?
Well.
It's been a long journey because for AW Rostamani, this is almost a 70-year-old organization. And we started off from being a data-driven, now it's a data-first. So everything about data was already there in the DNA. I mean, I think it comes from the management where the culture of building from scratch and building tools and capabilities from scratch. And now we've grown to an era of where business is very deeply involved. And we talked about self-service and citizen data scientists, but it's already happening there and now for us. So it's been a very steep learning curve, if I may say, for the organization, but we've ramped up really fast in terms of adoption, starting from process and optimization of efficiency, and now the emphasis is more on cost and revenue. So we've built up and scaled up really fast, and I think thanks to the technology enablement, as also the cultural aspect, which I'd like to re-emphasize, that a fantastic culture around having citizens and data scientists and citizen data ownership, right from Power BI to complex AI solutions, right? Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. So we'll touch on a few topics, but I really want to get into the transformation from AI. I know it's very broad. However, based on experiences of working with most of you, there are different levels of maturity. Some organizations are flying when it comes to data and AI, pardon the pun, right? Others are still in the infancy, and the shape of that transformation looks a little bit different, even the starting point. So to Esra, different organizations approach AI at different starting points, and even throughout your career or your time at Sisecam, you will have seen different starting points for whether it's BI or reporting, analytics. Can you describe at what point you started the AI journey at Sisecam, and also lead with a little bit of information about Sisecam itself and what you do?
Of course. Sisecam was founded in 1935 and to establish Turkey's glass manufacturing industry. So, and today, Sisecam is one of the global players in glass manufacturing and also in chemicals production. We are the world's leader in glassware. We are one of the top 5 players in glass packaging and flat glass, and also among the top 3 in soda production.
And you're the number 1 glass manufacturer
in glassware, tableware, the ones you use daily, the glasses and all those stuff.
And glass for construction and buildings also?
We are in the top 5 right now. You can see all around on skyscrapers, and all those glasses are produced by Sisecam. And we are the only global player who is manufacturing all types of glasses. And with more than almost 25,000 employees, we are operating in 14 countries on 4 continents, and we have sales over 150 countries. And
I remember, just to interject, I remember our conversation way back when, and the conversation was very much focused on a centralized team and thinking about how you expand the influence or evangelize across the organization, right? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, when I joined the company, there was a big transformation in the company in technology and culture. So we were centralizing, Sisecam already started to centralize every center of excellence. They started to create center of excellences, and analytics was one of them. And when I joined the company, there was nothing much, and my main target was to establish the analytics teams and also establish the infrastructure. So when we started our journey, there were some reporting and BI tools in the company, but not much AI. Most of the time, Sisecam was purchasing ready AI tools, AI solutions indeed, integrated with our manufacturing systems. But when I joined the company, we started to build our own AI and end-to-end solutions, because the glass manufacturing companies, our equipment providers, just solve their own problems, just a single part of the whole manufacturing process. But when we come, our aim was to solve the problem end-to-end.
Excellent. So in comes Dataiku with that capability.
So we needed a cost-efficient and scalable product, and which is welcoming open source integration and also provides a strong governance. So that's why we choose Dataiku.
We'll touch on the governance piece a little later on in the conversation. However, I will jump around a little bit. Dr. Reem, you've been in quite a few organizations, and the relationship with Dataiku and Saeed and many of the team members goes back a long way. Can you reflect on some interesting starting points? I guess I would be, in the audience would be interested in seeing where you took an organization in its infancy of data and AI, and then what it looked like over that first 6 months to 12 months in building up capability.
So thank you for asking. So indeed, it's a long way. Many, many years I've been around Dataiku and working with you. So first thing, you need to have a solid partner that will be with you all the way. So from building the foundation, from creating the POC, from basically unlocking the fears you have in your organization regarding the value of AI, how you create value with AI as well, because AI comes with a heavy cost initially, a heavy investment, right? So you need to showcase from the beginning value, like we're doing this is the potential revenue. We are doing that, this is how we are improving the NPS. And you need to really reassure your management, your organization around also talents. So talents, there is here 2 topics. One, we don't have talents really in the region. We are not San Francisco. It's very difficult to attract engineers in the region. And this is where Dataiku play a role, because it's a low-code platform, and it really helps to upskill, reskill your own talent to be able to develop your AI use case. The second fear is around more the management, I would say, side of things, where people are concerned that AI will replace talent and replace people. And this is where we need to reassure, train, educate, to explain that we will have a displacement of job for sure in the next coming decades. But the idea is we need to embark, and we need basically to start the AI journey now to continue to lead in our respective sector. So yes, it will come with impact because there will be automation, there will be optimization in terms of processes, etc. But we need from now to reskill our people where we need them to create more value. So in that front, Dataiku platform is really helping us because it's a low-code platform and you are also learning all the way. The trust is important. You need a partner that will tell you, I can do this, I cannot do that. Otherwise, you will engage in eternal conversation and go round and round. The other challenge as well I see, and where Dataiku is helping in a certain way, is sovereignty. The topic of sovereignty came many times around AI. Are we really sovereign of our data? So this is where I'm coming later on the conversation about sovereign cloud and potentially on-prem, because I'm seeing around in our ecosystem a lot of customers that, yes, we do have data for a long time. We have data, we did not really extract the value from this data, but now this data is going to help us have more insights, helping us having autonomous processes. So now that we are doing that, people have some concern about how AI is using data and where this data is, exactly, right? So, the cloud's still a little bit a concern, so how we basically overcome that challenge. And this is where Dataiku also has a solid customer in the region. I mean, I knew some of your teams in their previous, basically, company, and we have really the trust. I don't call them supplier, I call them partners, right?
This is great. This is great material. This for us.
And I think you know that. You have that in the video that I did a few years back.
This will make its way to a nice article.
Absolutely. So yes, you need to have a solid partner that you trust, that is part of your team, that will tell you the truth, and then you can basically embark safely in that journey.
I think what I've picked out is trust, right? So. Dataiku, many friends and colleagues, we work together in the company and grown relationship. I think there's implicit trust across Dataiku itself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the team have been in my previous organization, so I'm also former executive director of digital technology innovation of Etihad Airways. And I went through COVID with the support of Dataiku. Extremely helpful. The organization was really on the ground with us, basically, to have additional data. So, you know, aviation sector at that time was in a big, massive mess. So we needed to adapt the organization on almost a daily basis, if not hourly basis, because regulation was literally changing every hour. So this is where Dataiku played a massive role to help us going through COVID.
Thank you, Dr. Reem. So I picked up at the start of your answer, you talked about talent. So given that Dr. Dirk's talent is in the room, I'm looking at Dr. Amir.
Somewhere here.
Somewhere here. Let's really dig deep into good talent and what it looks like. So we worked together for a while, and I know the structure of the AI function or data science function at Emirates, but if you really think about scaling that to a citizen approach, something which we've discussed, how do you see the best approach to scaling citizen data science? How do you get the buy-in from the business? Should it be that way, or should it be in reverse? Should you wait till the business demand is there, they come to you? Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because we're also discussing this again, I would say, at the moment in Emirates quite intensely, because so far in the last 6 or 6.5 years since I've been in the organization, there wasn't that much appetite for citizen data scientist work, what you would call it usually. Of course, I mean, people have all kinds of data wrangling requirements, and sometimes they call that data science, but in the end, there has been, I mean, there are a couple of pockets where people say we've been doing data science for 20 years and they continue doing this. In most of the other areas in the company, across the group, in particular the ones we started working with over the last 6 years, the appetite hasn't really been there. They actually look for us not just as a center of excellence, but almost as a center for doing data science. Now, this is now slowly changing, I would say, since we have generated quite a bit of appetite for doing data science, and of course, as a central function, our capacity is limited for doing this. The challenges, however, of course, are quite substantial, because in the end, data scientists usually also thrive in a community of practice. You need a little bit of critical mass, and that is something, of course, if you try to establish this in pockets across the business, in different business functions, you have a data scientist here, another two there, so they don't really thrive. I mean, it's very difficult to retain them.
Data scientists like company of other data scientists,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've built a community of practice, and we'll probably push this also a little bit further so that people get involved in the exchange of knowledge and so on. Tooling is one part of the challenge, of course, and it's one of the benefits of Dataiku, of course, is that it's a low-code environment. I mean, you can, in principle, use a graphical user interface in order to build your pipelines and build your models even. Even though our own data scientists usually prefer notebooks, they don't even use this. But in the business, this is what generates a little bit of interest and appetite in order to do this. Even though, as I mentioned before, sometimes this is more for data wrangling than actual data science. The big question mark I have around the whole concept of the citizen data scientist usually is that despite all advances, and we've heard a lot in the last years about AutoML and all kinds of things and tool support, a data scientist still needs a substantial amount of knowledge in statistics, and that hasn't gone away. Yeah. So this falls a little bit in the category for me where I always keep telling people, be cautious, kids, please don't try this at home. It is not that simple. You need to know about the accuracy of your models, you need to be able to test properly, you need to be able to validate, is your training data set unbiased, can you stratify it, how do you do this? These things are usually not automated, and of course there's tool support for doing this. So what I'm trying to say is it's difficult to find the right skill set. It's difficult enough to find that for a central function. It's a very, very slow process to get these kind of skills into the different business units with which we are working. So it's a slow process in Emirates Group, I would say.
So we'll try to speed it up, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we will, now my observation is that the core data science team, that's great, that should remain. Yeah. They should be an element of trust, a source of information, guidance for the citizen data science movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to move a little bit quicker, and this is taking longer because I interjected a lot as well, I apologize. So Santosh, your thoughts on, or your view on your journey at Beyond One, and I'd like you to touch on how you managed to handle the different requirements from business and how you were able to prioritize those use cases. What still was left with the business and what was taken by your team? How do you prioritize?
Sure. We as a company, we have multiple operations across GCC, and also now we have presence in LATAM. So that being said, we have different business stakeholders spread across different continents and regions. Everyone has their own priorities, their own requirements. But data team is a central team which stays in UAE looking after all these operations. So it's always been a challenge handling this, and this is also one of the key aspect and element that we look at, introducing AI into the functionality as well. So a couple of key aspects that we look at in most of these cases. The very important thing is to understand the requirement and also aligning this with the availability of the data or the quality of the data. That makes a big difference when it comes to showing value out of these insights. So we are focusing more on standardizing or investing more on a solid data infrastructure. So as we all know, the high quality data is the foundation for any kind of successful AI initiative. So this is where we are driving towards now. So And I also look at this way that data shouldn't be working in a silo. It's a collaborative effort between business, technical, and then the data team. They all need to work together, and everyone needs to be empowered with, what does this mean when it comes to doing analysis on the data or how to bring insights out of it. So, we are discussing about no-code solutions and stuff like this is where the business users needs to step in, understand how can they take leverage of the data without writing codes by themselves or having significant dependency on the data scientists or the engineers.
So the access to the data is step number one, right? I think
it is, but it has a lot of pros and cons when it comes to the access. Privacy comes in place,
I'm glad you touched on that part. My next point, actually. So, Lakshmi, I want to touch on the point of ethics. Ethics, to many of us, is based on our culture, religion, where we've grown up, our background, right? Ethics can be very personal. When we talk about ethics and doing the right thing with data, what are your experiences in looking at ethics and regulation in doing the right thing with the data? Sorry, and we can touch on all touch on this point as well. I know Dr. Reem and Dr. Dirk have their views as well as Esra and Santosh. So please.
So one of the interesting things that we've done at AW Rostamani is the setup of the data governance function, which I'm currently heading, and integrating tightly with the data science and analytics team. So while earlier, data quality and data availability and the mandatory checks were all there, the higher awareness of what is subjective versus objective in terms of ethics and principles of governance. So UAE has been moving pretty fast. We have some recent laws and regulations around data protection laws which have come into force. And at AW Rostamani, we have started putting some of these policies on governance very much into place. So that revolves around data privacy and classification. To take an example, much of our business is from the automotive sector, right? So we are now getting into an era where we have our OEMs who are dealing with electric vehicles, autonomous cars. The data could be everywhere. It could be from China to Israel to France. The data centers are all over the world. And the interesting twist that has happened is that while we were the owners of the data previously, sensitive information about the customers, right, which includes location or contact information, which is classified as personally identifiable information, PII. Sensitive data information about the customers could be in different geographies. So data residency and the challenge of how to have data monetization use cases with our data science platforms on the one hand, and then also trying to balance the the regulations and the privacy. So there is, the governance is playing an important part in ensuring that we are putting guardrails around our use cases to say that, hey, certain data needs to be classified, this is sensitive. It is good to use that in your prediction use case, classification use case, but we need to be aware of what those guardrails are.
You mentioned previously to me an interesting use case. You have the electric vehicles, you have the data where people are moving,
right,
and you're also in retail, right?
Right.
A perfect mixed. You know where people are going, what time they're leaving, which mall or store they're going to, and you probably got previous history about what they bought. Yeah. For me, that's a great solution. Yeah. Right? I would save a lot of time. Yeah. I mean, I know what I want, and you give me the offers, and I take them. However, there comes an element of trust and privacy.
Exactly.
So I'm going to link to Dr. Dirk. We've talked in the past about the great feedback you get from certain routes by the kind of staff you put on the aeroplanes, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you should take action on those insights, right?
Yeah, it's correct. I mean, it depends on really on what's the question that's being addressed. We use this customer feedback when you fly Emirates. Of course, you see these nice smiley faces in the end. Don't take them lightly.
Everybody clicks those smiley faces, right?
Please use them and give honest feedback. No, it's quite important actually. We get literally millions of responses coming back. I mean, the statistics is overwhelming. You can actually do so many things with it. But of course, there are a couple of things we are doing, and then you can, for instance, you can kind of correlate the happiness of passengers with the food, the catering on board. with which caterer did provide it, right? So it goes all the way now to having caterer SLAs, having kind of being linked to customer satisfaction on the plane. We can do these kind of things. We've also linked it to crew performance because, I mean, people are happy or less happy with how our flight attendants, in particular the pursers, are performing. And these kind of things you can do, and they are probably ethically, at least from my own judgment, also within the company, they're okay.
Yeah.
But you can also ask other questions. You can, in principle, link this obviously to gender, to nationality, and then things become far more questionable. And that is something where we are still working on, I would say, at the moment in the company, and having something like an ethical governance framework. Of course, we have the legal and the regulatory frameworks, which are either already out there and which are being developed at the moment. And we've seen some of the financial penalties that can emerge and come out of this on the slides. I mean, the reputational damage usually is of similar order of magnitude. Yeah. So it's clearly something to avoid, and that's something the company clearly has taken care of. But when it comes to these kind of more ethically, I mean, things that are in principle allowed, but when you see the questions, you say immediately, whoa, we probably shouldn't be doing this. This is not okay. That is something where each company probably has to develop its own framework and its own guardrails and guidelines on what is allowed. I can ask the question, for instance, I mean, do German passengers, which kind of nationalities they prefer to have sitting next to them or in flight attendants? Is that an ethically correct analysis question? I would say no. No, yeah. But easily doable, and at the moment there is nothing that would stop me from doing this, at least from a legal or regulatory point of view.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of people in the audience asking you what those tricky questions are in the break. So the conversation...
Yeah, and I will not answer any of them.
So we've got a few minutes left. I'm going to open up for questions in the audience. If anybody has a question, the panelists are happy to answer, I'm told. Any questions or comments?
So may I just add one thing about what Dr. Dick, because Dr. Dick just spoke about ethic AI, and Lakshmi spoke about the sovereignty. There is a third, actually, pillar, which is bias. So bias is also something that we need to work and to find a solution about, because whatever we have in AI, we are just duplicating and amplifying the bias we have in society. So I'm very glad that we have a proper balance between women and men on the panel today. Thank you for that.
It wasn't
very
intentional.
rare. Yeah, but it's very rare, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, the bias will be just amplified. So as Dr. Dirk basically mentioned, it can be bias on races, on religion, on nationalities, but also on these women and men ways of thinking. We are different, we think differently, we take decisions also differently, and all of that needs to be reflected somehow on the engine of those LLMs or those AI use cases that we are developing. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, talent is not really on our side today, so we need to push our daughters, and it's even more important for me as a woman from Abu Dhabi. We need to push our daughters, we need to push our sisters, we need to push really the women of our society to go into AI and to be basically part of the decision making on how we develop all those AI use cases, those LLM, etc.
Eliminating bias across the, whether it's gender, nationality.
Eliminating them, I think, is a big thing, right? Because we still have bias in society in general, but the idea is not to amplify them and over-amplify them basically in AI, via AI. Yeah.
Good points. I'm going to have to finish there. There's lots more we can have of this conversation that can be extended. However, do take the opportunity to grab a few minutes with our panelists in the break or afterwards. So you're going to be very busy, unfortunately. That's my fault. But we'll end there. Round of applause, please, for our panelists. Thank you so much.